God tells you you will become, you begin to set your affection there. That means if God tells you you will be a king, you've got to set your whole consciousness there until you begin to think and act like a king. That's where your kingship begins from. Your kingship may not begin with a coronation service. Your kingship may not begin with an invitation to a palace. Your kingship will actually begin with a consciousness. If God tells you that you are wealthy and you will sponsor nation, it's not when you have a capital you become wealthy. That means it has to become your consciousness to a degree that you cannot see yourself poor. It will take another year or 10 years for you to be convinced that you are poor. Because what God told you, you will inundate your mind with it until it becomes your consciousness. Now, this thing looks simple, but this is actually our primary occupation in life. Our primary occupation is not the job we do. Our primary occupation is to renew our mind until our mind accepts everything God says we are. In Romans 12 verse 2, it says, be not conformed to this world. It says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, because there is a perfect will of God that you are supposed to manifest. If your mind is not renewed, you can never become anything God says you are. That's your primary occupation. And it's beyond hearing a message and echoing it. Echo is not reality. Echo creates impression, not impact. What we are saying here, you know, there's a way the man's consciousness is built. The man's consciousness is built such that he has an active consciousness and a passive consciousness, or a subconscious aspect. A man's true life is in his subconscious. As you are seated here now, let me give you an instance. If you hear a loud bang outside, your first response, I can assure you, will be fear. Before your brain begins to process what that sound is, who you are inside will respond before your brain responds. You hear a bang outside, fear, the fear that will hit you. If it is close, there will be chaos here. Before we say what is happening, some people will be standing at that door and they will start asking themselves how they got there. The reason is because that aspect of them that is not always expressive is the most powerful aspect of them. It is when things happen suddenly that you find their reality. As you are seated here now, if you come home and they just give you a bag full of money, you kick it, you think it's clothes. Maybe it's jeans they folded. You now opened it, you saw dollars. You will just move around first. The first thing you will think of is, that car that I was dreaming of, this is the time. Or you start thinking, that thought is your real consciousness. You may stand and tell God that, Lord, if you bless me, you know what I will do. He said, God is not hearing what you are saying only. God is reading your subconscious. Because that's your reality. And so if you check your life carefully and you are a student of your spirit, roll back to 5 years ago, to 10 years ago, you will discover everything you are now is what your subconscious mind was 10 years ago. Nobody just appears. All of us are a product of a programming of our soul. And so Paul is teaching us that if we are hoping to manifest anything worthwhile, the first labor we must put on ground is to begin to reprogram our consciousness. And the way you reprogram your consciousness is through words and through pictures. Those are the two things that reprograms your consciousness. Words and pictures. If you want to be wealthy, if you want to be powerful, if you want to be holy, it's possible. But you will only be based on what is entering you. Because your life follows the law of Gigo. You garbage in, you garbage out. It's what you put in that you bring out. No miracle can unset this balance. Even if a miracle happens to you, your consciousness will bring you back to status quo. That's why you can give $1 billion to a mentally poor person. Check him after 2 years. Instead of investing that money to become better, he will use that money to create problem. He'll give 100 million to a poor man. He marries 3 wives immediately. That's where he will start from. And then he will go and buy 4 cars that he doesn't need. And each of the cars will be in millions. After 2 years, he will sell those cars and spend the money. And then the 3 wives will kill him of high blood pressure. That means what you call a blessing is a curse. Because the mind is wrong. These are kingdom principles. I'm a minister of God. Every day I choke myself with scriptures. Every day. If I'm watching something, scriptures are coming out of it. And then I see things in the direction I'm going. Sometimes I'm just playing a healing video. Not because I'm not even hearing. I'm just seeing how people are standing up from wheelchairs. I'm just seeing how cancer, people are testifying. What I'm doing is that I'm trying to make that my reality. And if I do it after a long time, if I see a crippled person, the first thing that will happen to me will not be fear. Because my mind absorbs this reality until it becomes my possibility. And if you do it for a long time, the people you are seeing doing it, they will leave the scene. You will start seeing yourself doing it. You are beginning to change your world. This is how manifestation comes. You are a businessman. If you are not looking at a godly businessman who is doing well, until you begin to think only possibilities, your mind will be a mountain you will never scale. Because the first law of manifestation is the law of consciousness. You are not who you say you are. You are who you think you are. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Words are that powerful. Images are that powerful. Why do you think the people of the world are only interested in spreading negative news? Do something good nobody wants to hear. But evil and negative news, item you want to buy today, you'll find naked people on it. They don't need to open a church of fornicators. They don't need to open an institution of liars. If you keep seeing your thoughts will align, it's so hard to do it. Nobody advised you into it. They showed you into it and they talked you into it. Because your consciousness defines your essence.